All right, this is the third lecture of Unit 3 on languages. Today we're going to be looking at why people preserve local languages in the face of globalization of major languages like English and Spanish. So, of course, we know that English has dominated the globe for several hundreds of years, and it is the official language in over 50 countries and spoken fluently by more than 500 million people. 90% of the students who live in European Union countries, so Western and Eastern European countries, learn English as their second language and speak it pretty fluently. And of course, this deals with this fact that for so long the United States and England have been these imperial powers that have been really good at spreading their dominance and in doing so spreading their culture. If you look at English, in Spanish, to some extent, it is known as a lingua franca. This is the language of international communication. And even if people don't understand English completely in their grammar and syntax and semantics, they might speak a kind of lesser version, a less complicated, a more simplified version of English, which is known as a pidgin language. So they might know a few words, they might know how to communicate with someone, but they might not be able to spell them correctly or write them. The fact is that regardless of what country you travel to internationally, people are going to speak English. And while it might not be their first language, they can probably speak a simplified version of it known as that pidgin language. So why has English become so dominant? Well, in historical aspects, the way that English was spread was through relocation diffusion. So as countries that spoke English conquered and imperialized, through this migration, they brought with them their language. Today, it's happening through expansion diffusion. So the diffusion of new vocabulary, spelling, word pronunciation is happening very quickly, and English is fusing with other languages due to the mass kind of usage of technology. When English diffuses with other languages, you've kind of got this sense of controversy that's happened. And this is what's going on in France with Franglish, which is a mixture of French and English. And to the French, their language is very much a sense of national pride. And since French has been mixed with English, it's seen as being controversial in that country. Whereas Spanglish, the mixture of Spanish and English, is definitely seen as enriching both languages. It's not as controversial as Franglish is. And basically, just a mixture of English and any language is just a modified spelling of words. Maybe there's new words that's created due to it. And this, of course, is due to the diffusion of popular culture in those areas. So what we really want to be concerned about, and what I think we should be concerned about as just human beings, is the fact that as these lingua francas diffuse, you've got smaller and lesser spoken languages that are dying off. And it is the goal of some people to preserve those languages. There are thought to be about 516 extinct languages. And of course, they become extinct as English becomes more globalized. If you look at Hebrew, Hebrew is an example of a language that at one point in time was extinct, but it is now revived due to the creation of Israel in 1948. So as the state of Israel was created for the Jewish people as a homeland for them, their official language became Hebrew. Most people who practice Judaism speak Hebrew. You have to know how to speak Hebrew to read from the Torah. And so when this state was created for these people, it showed kind of this cultural unity that was happening as they made Hebrew their official language. The only problem is that because Hebrew died a long time ago and became extinct a long time ago, the Hebrew language had to adapt and change because there were all of a sudden these new inventions like computers and cell phones that the Hebrew language did not have words for. And so as Hebrew became this revived language, they had to invent new words. Other examples of languages that were on the verge of extinction at one point in time Celtic was the major language in the British Isles before the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes came to invade. If you look at Wales, the Welsh language has become revived and has not died out because it is in fact supported by the government, and they have adopted it as their official language. Irish Gaelic is seen as this language in Ireland that is spoken by younger people as a way to distinguish themselves from the English people who are living in Ireland. And Cornish was in fact formerly extinct, but has become revived. It's a little bit more controversial because there's a debate over how to spell it, if you spell it in the more modern, medieval, traditional ways, or if you spell it phonetically like most European languages do. So how do you revive minority languages in the face of globalization? Well, one of the ways in which this is happening is by the elders in a community resisting English. So you have older people in communities all over the world that truly make it their goal to preserve their unique language. And we see this a lot with Native American tribes and individuals teaching their language to the younger people in the community. And when we come back from the snow days, we're going to watch a documentary called The Linguist, and in this you see an elderly Native American person practicing speaking his native language with himself through recordings, and he's really concerned that his children aren't going to learn it, and if he won't have anyone to speak his native language to. The Chinese also believe in teaching their native language to younger people in the community, and it's seen as a source of cultural identity in the face of globalization. The other way you can revive minority languages is by the government trying to promote cultural unity, especially in countries that are multicultural states. And so you see this in South Africa after apartheid. You've got a lot of different ethnicities there. And once the government became stable and more of a democracy, they had the adoption of 4 official languages in the country to cater to all of those different ethnicities. You see the same thing in Belgium and Canada. There's actually a part of Canada, Quebec, that is mostly French speaking. And at one point in time, Quebec wanted to secede from Canada and become their own little ethnic state, basically. And the Canadian government has been very good at kind of incorporating French and adopting it as a second official language along with English. Nationalism is extremely important, the sense of cultural pride and national unity. And so you can adopt your native language like Israel did with Hebrew, that kind of forces the country to come together and revive or at least maintain their language in the face of globalization. And then, of course, tourism. I know it might sound counterintuitive that tourists would want countries and tourist companies to speak English, but you've got this new kind of thing happening where tourists are traveling abroad and they want to hear the native languages in those places. And so because of tourism and because of this globalization of people in general, some of these languages have in fact been revived. So going back to those states that are multilingual states, Belgium is one of those places, and the difference in their languages there, the southern Belgians, or the Walloons is what they are called, speak French, and the northern Belgians, who are Flemings, speak Flemish. And this literal geographic divide has become very controversial in Belgium and led to actually a lot of fighting there. Which is odd to think about because it is definitely a developed place. But this sense of multilingualness in Belgium has, in fact, led to the 2 regions becoming independent regions and really seeing themselves as being different people and not all citizens of Belgium. In Switzerland, it's been less controversial. There are 4 official languages there: German, French, Italian, and Romish. This, of course, allows the people who speak those languages to feel like they truly belong in Switzerland, and it has become less controversial than it is in Belgium. You then have this phenomenon known as isolated languages. This is just a lack of interaction with speakers of other languages. So Icelandic is one of the languages that has changed the least over several hundreds of years because Iceland is isolated from all of the other European countries. Basque is a unique language that's spoken in Europe, and it was spoken before the arrival of Indo-European speakers, specifically in the Pyrenees Mountains. And if you listen to it, it does sound somewhat like Spanish, but it is completely different, and oftentimes Spanish speakers aren't able to understand the Basque language. Here's a clip of someone, I think he's a soccer player, speaking Basque.
Gaztaroan lagunekin ezin konstituzioen barantzan huts egin.
Kuadriakin konstituzioen barantzara jote ginean, eta bueno, ja oso ambientea, giroa oso urruietik bizi genuen, eta seguruena lehenengo parranda orduan izan ziren.
Baina gero futbola iritsi zen eta festatik.
So because of this isolation of these people living in the Pyrenees Mountains, they have been able to preserve their language. It has become less subject to the diffusion of other languages. So what you're going to do now is you're going to read this article. The link is on Edmodo, and then answer these 5 questions. You can email them to me, no problem. We are going to be looking at the 2 men in this article as they have made it their life's work as linguists to go around the world and document languages that are dying.